let's talk like grown women. Let's talk about something that's often whispered about but rarely understood. Let's talk about sexual performance, because yes, it matters. Not because society said so, not because it's trending on some shallow platform, but because it is directly connected to your emotional power, your sense of worth, your physical vitality, and your spiritual connection with yourself. As a woman, your sexuality is sacred. It's not a tool. It's not a burden. It's not something to be ashamed of or used recklessly. It is energy. It is a pulse. It is the center of your divine femininity. And how you express it, how you show up in it, says everything about how deeply connected you are to yourself. And when we talk about sexual performance, we're not talking about pornographic perfection or Instagram fantasies. We're talking about real embodied confidence. We're talking about presence, about intention, about a woman who knows her body, respects her energy. You know what doesn't perform well? Repression, guilt, shame. Years of being taught that pleasure is a sin and that being in tune with your body makes you less virtuous. That conditioning is why so many women are disconnected, going through the motions, afraid to express desire, afraid to ask for what they want, or worse, afraid to even discover it. Let me be very clear. Sexual performance is not about performance at all. It's about connection. It's about confidence. It's about being so deeply rooted in who you are that intimacy becomes a mirror, not a mask. A woman who performs well in the bedroom is often the woman who performs well in life. Why? Because she is free from societal shackles, free from judgment, free from pretending to be someone she's not. She doesn't hustle for worthiness. She embodies it. She doesn't need approval. She moves with authenticity. You want to improve your sexual performance? Then improve your self-awareness, heal your traumas, unlearn the lies you were told about your body, release the shame you were taught to carry, stop performing for the male gaze, and start performing for your soul. Your sensuality is not dirty, it's not dangerous, it's divine. It is time we stop confusing modesty with silence and liberation with recklessness. You can be modest and deeply sensual. You can be spiritual and profoundly expressive. You can be disciplined and fully alive. These are not opposites. They are powerful combinations when integrated with wisdom. And please understand, sexual performance is not just about the act. It's about presence. Are you present in your body? Do you even breathe when you're intimate? Or are you stuck in your head, overanalyzing everything? Are you surrendering? Or are you just surviving another moment? You see, the world has conditioned women to please others, to make noise only when asked, to play small, to dim down, to be passive. But your sexuality is not passive. It is a living, breathing energy that needs to be owned, refined, and respected. So don't just show up in intimacy, own it. Don't just perform, connect. Don't just chase validation. Embody love. Because at the end of the day, sexual performance matters not because of someone else's standards, but because of the standard you hold for yourself. The way you love, the way you move, the way you speak life into your own soul, it's all connected. And when you operate from wholeness, your performance in every aspect of life becomes powerful, intentional, and unforgettable. Remember, a woman who is in tune with her sexual energy is not too much. She is magic. She is medicine. And she is absolutely unstoppable. We live in a world where performance has become a metric for everything. How you look, how you speak, how you live, and yes, even how you love. But when it comes to sexual performance, many have misunderstood the essence of what it truly means. This isn't about technique. It's not about wild intensity or the kind of dramatized perfection we've been fed through media and cultural noise. Sexual performance is not an act. It is an experience. And more importantly, it is an experience that begins with you, with your awareness, your presence, your emotional clarity, and your spiritual alignment. It is not about what you can do for someone else. It is about how deeply you are connected to yourself while sharing space with another human being. When a woman is disconnected from herself, her performance in bed, in life, in relationships always feels off. She can fake it, she can try to play the part, she can mimic confidence, but energetically it doesn't land, because performance that comes from insecurity is always fragile. You cannot show up fully when you are showing up from a place of fear or unworthiness. And that is what many women are doing. They are walking into intimate spaces, carrying years of shame, guilt, rejection, people easing abandonment wounds and unresolved trauma, and then wondering why they don't feel satisfied, confident, or deeply desired. We've been told lies. That our sexuality is something to be hidden, something that makes us less sacred, less intelligent, less respectable. We were told that good women don't express desire, they don't initiate, they don't explore. So we learned to suppress, to detach, to pretend. And in that process, we lost the art of connection, not just with others, but with ourselves. When you're disconnected from your body, you're disconnected from your power. You start moving through intimacy like it's a task. You go through the motions. You become robotic. You become emotionally numb. Your mind is somewhere else, worrying, calculating, performing, and your body becomes nothing more than a vessel. But a woman who is truly connected to herself does not operate this way. She is present, she is grounded, she is intentional. She listens to her body like it speaks truth, because it does. Sexual performance at its highest level is a spiritual experience. It is not chaos. It is not friction without meaning. It is not noise without presence. It is a flow, a rhythm, a union between your mind, your heart, your body, and your breath. And if you are not connected to those parts of you outside the bedroom, they won't magically switch on inside it. A disconnected life leads to disconnected intimacy. So if you want to improve how you show up in that space, improve how you show up with yourself. And embodiment is everything. When you are embodied, your energy speaks before your words. Your presence creates safety. Your eyes reflect truth. Your touch carries intention. You become unforgettable, not because of what you do, but because of who you are being. Sexual performance is not a checklist. It's not a list of techniques you memorize. It's a quality of energy you bring. It's how attuned you are, how grounded you are, how emotionally honest you are. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to be wild to be unforgettable. You just need to be real. But being real takes courage, it takes healing, it takes sitting with the parts of you that you've suppressed and deciding to love them back into life. It takes questioning what you were taught. It takes giving yourself permission to rewrite the story, because the old story, the one that taught you to feel shame, to feel small, to seek approval, that story has expired. And you, my love, are evolving. You don't perform well when you're insecure. You don't perform well when you're disconnected. You don't perform well when you're dissociating from your body. So stop trying to fix the performance and start fixing the foundation. Start building intimacy with yourself first. Learn how to touch yourself with kindness. Learn how to listen to your needs without judgment. Learn how to sit with silence, with stillness, with truth. That is where performance becomes power. When it is rooted in self-love, not self-doubt. Some women have never felt the kind of connection that makes their body feel like home. They've been rushed. They've been invalidated. They've been told that their pleasure is secondary. And so they've learned to dim down, to just get through it, to perform instead of participate. But that is not your destiny. That is not your truth. You are allowed to slow down. You are allowed to feel deeply. You are allowed to ask for what you want. You are allowed to explore. You are allowed to be complex. You are allowed to be sensual without being objectified. You are allowed to be sacred and sexual. Because the truth is, your sexual energy is not separate from your spiritual energy. It is the same life force, just expressed in different ways. When you are fully connected to yourself, to your emotions, your body, your boundaries, your heart, you don't perform better sexually. You live better. You speak with more clarity. You walk with more power. You attract with more authenticity. You radiate with more softness and strength, all at once. You stop apologizing for being too much. You stop settling for bare minimum experiences. You stop pretending to be okay with surface level connections. You stop performing for people who haven't earned your truth. Because now you understand sexual performance is not about tricks. It's not about rehearsed movements or artificial chemistry. It's about how aligned you are with your own soul. It's about how safe you feel within your own skin. It's about how boldly you allow yourself to feel, to express, to surrender without fear, without shame, without pretending. And that right there is what makes you unforgettable. There's a reason so many women feel disconnected from their sensuality. It's not because they lack desire. It's not because they're cold or closed off. It's because no one ever taught them how to heal. No one ever told them that the trauma they've internalized, whether emotional, relational, cultural, or spiritual, sits in their bodies and silently affects the way they love, the way they move, the way they respond to touch, to intimacy, to connection. And that disconnection is not permanent, but it does require a woman to walk the path of self-awarenessness. Because sensual power isn't something you buy, imitate, or borrow from someone else. It is something that emerges from within when the layers of shame, fear, guilt, and repression are peeled away through the process of healing. Sensuality is your birthright, is the soft, magnetic energy that radiates from a woman who feels safe in her body and clear in her mind. It's not about seduction. It's not about attention. It's not even about sex. It's about aliveness. It's about how deeply you are to your senses, your breath, your emotions, your energy, your desires. But here's the truth. You cannot be attuned to something you're afraid to feel. You cannot embody sensuality if you've spent years numbing yourself, silencing yourself, judging yourself, And that's what so many women are doing. They are walking through life disconnected from their power, not because it's gone, but because they were never taught how to access it. Sensual power begins the moment you choose to stop abandoning yourself. It begins when you stop ignoring the pain, the trauma, the heartbreak that's been buried under layers of pretending to be okay. It begins when you stop performing and start feeling. Because the woman who is truly powerful in her sensuality is the one who has faced herself. She has met her wounds with compassion. She has looked her insecurities in the eye and decided that they will not define her. She has chosen to become deeply self-aware, not for perfection, but for liberation. You see, healing isn't glamorous. It's messy. It's uncomfortable. It brings up everything you've been avoiding. But it is necessary, because without healing, you are only performing. You are reacting, you are repeating, and nothing about that will lead to the embodiment of your sensual truth. You cannot fake self-awareness. You cannot fake emotional intelligence. You cannot fake wholeness. These are things you cultivate through intention, through reflection, through courageous honesty with yourself. A woman who is self-aware knows her patterns. She understands why she shuts down, why she overgives, why she tolerates less than she deserves. And because she knows, she chooses differently. She no longer lets her past dictate her present. She no longer lets fear make her decisions. She no longer chases validation through shallow connections. She understands that true intimacy begins with herself. She has boundaries, not as a defense mechanism, but as an act of self-respect. She doesn't just want connection, she is connection. She doesn't beg to be chosen. She chooses herself every single day. When you begin to heal, your body begins to feel safe again. You stop flinching at love. You stop bracing yourself for abandonment. You stop fearing your own emotions. And in that safety, your sensuality blooms. Because sensuality requires softness. It requires trust. It requires presence. And you cannot be present if your mind is stuck in fear, shame, or hypervigilance. Healing clears the static so you can hear your intuition. It calms the nervous system so you can feel your body. It softens the walls around your heart so you can give and receive without losing yourself in the process. So many women are craving connection, but they're disconnected from themselves. They're craving depth, but still living on the surface. They're craving sensuality, but haven't yet done the emotional cleanup necessary to feel safe in their own skin. This is why healing matters, because you cannot access your power through avoidance. You have to feel it all, the grief, the rage, the shame, the sadness, not to stay there, but to move through it, to release it, to make space for something more alive, more alive, more alive, more authentic. Sensual power is not just about how you move your body, it's about how you hold your energy. It's about the way you breathe, the way you speak, the way you listen to yourself. It's about honoring your boundaries without guilt. It's about expressing your needs without fear. It's about being fully embodied in your truth. That's what makes a woman magnetic. Not the way she looks, but the way she feels to herself and to others. This doesn't mean you won't have moments of doubt. It doesn't mean you won't be triggered. It means you will have the tools, the awareness, and the self-love to hold yourself through it. You will no longer abandon yourself when things get hard. You will no longer suppress your truth to maintain comfort. You will no longer sacrifice your body for temporary connection. You will live in integrity with your values, with your boundaries, with your body, and with your desire. And yes, that changes how you show up sexually, because now You're not performing, you're not pretending, you're not disassociating. You are present, you are tuned in, you are leading with your energy, not with your fear. Your sensuality becomes sacred because it's no longer rooted in survival, it's rooted in self-love. It's no longer about being desired, it's about being seen, fully, completely, and without shame. That is what healing gives you. It gives you your power back. It gives you clarity. It gives you choice. When you heal, you stop choosing from your wounds and start choosing from your worth. You stop using your body to prove your value and start using your awareness to protect your peace. You stop shrinking in the face of intimacy and start rising in the presence of love. Sensuality is not chaos. It is not recklessness. It is not mindless indulgence. It is a grounded, intentional, embodied way of living. It is the way you savor your morning coffee, the way you stretch your body with gratitude, the way you walk into a room knowing who you are. It's in the way you touch, speak, receive, and allow. It's in the way you carry softness and strength in the same breath. That is sensual power. That is feminine intelligence. And that is the energy that becomes available to every woman who chooses to heal and become deeply self-aware. No one can give you that power. It cannot be outsourced. It cannot be faked. It is cultivated. And the cultivation happens in silence, in solitude, in the conversations you have with yourself when no one is watching. It happens when you stop blaming the world and start taking radical responsibility for your own healing. It happens when you decide that you are worthy of peace, of joy, of pleasure, of safety, of love. Not because you've earned it, but because you are it. Healing and self-awareness are not destinations. They are daily practices. They are ways of living, ways of loving, ways of being. And the more you commit to that path, the more your sensual power begins to shine, not as a performance, but as a natural, radiant, undeniable part of who you are. There's a presence some women carry that turns heads without effort. It's not loud, it's not rehearsed, it's not seeking attention. It simply is. This presence doesn't beg, it doesn't chase, it doesn't shrink. It walks into a room and changes the frequency. And it's not because of what she's wearing, how she looks, or what she says. It's something deeper. It's embodied sensuality, the kind that's rooted, unbothered, intentional, and it flows into everything she touches. Her business, her relationships, her conversations, her energy. That is not just femininity, that is power. Embodied sensuality is not just about being attractive, it's about being in alignment. When a woman is connected to her body, she becomes connected to her instincts, her intuition, her intelligence. Her decisions become sharper. Her presence becomes fuller. Her energy becomes magnetic. Because she's not leaking her power. She's not giving it away to be accepted. She's not performing to be validated. She's living from the inside out. She's present in her skin. She trusts herself. And that trust becomes unshakable confidence in every area of her life. This kind of embodiment doesn't just enhance your love life, it shifts your entire reality. Because when you feel good in your body, you show up differently. You speak with clarity, you walk with purpose, you set boundaries with ease, you ask for what you want without guilt. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop tolerating environments that dim your light. You stop compromising your peace to be accepted. You start making choices that are aligned with your highest self, not your wounded self. That alignment births excellence in business, in leadership, in friendship, in vision. Sensuality teaches you to slow down, to feel, to notice. It sharpens your awareness. It deepens your relationship with time. It helps you discern what is life-giving and what is draining. It puts you back in your body, which is the most sacred place you will ever live in. And the more embodied you become, the less tolerance you have for anything that disconnects you from yourself, from your purpose, from your truth. You see, many women are living on autopilot, performing tasks, meeting expectations, playing roles, but they're numb, they're exhausted, they're living from the neck up, disconnected from their bodies, their pleasure, their essence. And because they are not embodied, they're overthinking, overgiving, overcompensating. They're chasing peace in the external world while completely neglecting the internal one. But embodiment brings you back home. It reminds you that everything you are seeking, clarity, confidence, creativity, connection, is already inside of you. You just have to feel again. A woman who is essentially embodied doesn't try to control the room. She grounds it. She doesn't demand attention. She commands it effortlessly. Her confidence is not performative. It's organic. It's born from a deep sense of knowing who she is and what she deserves. She doesn't settle because she no longer needs approval. She doesn't manipulate because she knows her worth. She doesn't overextend because she's no longer afraid to disappoint those who misunderstand her power. This embodiment impacts her leadership. She leads with presence. She doesn't dominate. She inspires. She doesn't force. She influences. She doesn't lead with fear. She leads with grace. Because she knows that true leadership isn't about control. It's about energy. And when your energy is rooted in your body, in your truth, in your wisdom, your impact becomes timeless. People remember how you made them feel. And when you're embodied, your very presence feels like safety. In relationships, embodied sensuality teaches you to love without losing yourself, to be soft without being small, to be open without being naive. You stop trying to earn love and start learning how to receive it. You understand that your value is not in your performance, but in your presence. You stop overperforming you. You stop proving your worth. You stop tolerating inconsistency and calling it love. Because now you have a relationship with your body that speaks louder than any red flag. Your nervous system becomes your compass, and it doesn't lie. Your creativity also changes because sensuality is deeply connected to creation. When you're in your body, you are tapped into the divine feminine current of expression, of beauty, of inspiration. Ideas flow with ease. Your work feels like art. Your voice carries conviction. You don't need to push because your energy pools. You become the embodiment of flow, not force. And that flow creates success that feels good, not just looks good. Even your communication shifts. You no longer shrink your voice to keep the peace. You speak with depth, with intelligence, with emotion. You're not afraid to be seen. You're not afraid to be heard, because now your self-worth is not tied to other people's comfort. You can disagree without disconnecting. You can express desire without shame. You can hold boundaries without guilt because you trust yourself. And that trust is magnetic. Embodied sensuality teaches you the difference between reaction and response, between noise and wisdom, between performance and presence. And once you taste that kind of embodiment, you can never go back. You stop making love to life itself with the way you eat, the way you rest, the way you move, the way you speak, the way you create. You become intentional, sacred, a woman of depth in a world of distractions. This isn't about being perfect. It's not about having all the answers. It's about being awake, aware, tuned in. Embodiment is not about constant pleasure. It's about capacity, the capacity to hold both joy and grief, to feel deeply without drowning, to be sensual without being performative, to be feminine without losing your fire. It's about wholeness, and wholeness comes from integration of mind, body, heart, and spirit. There is power in being a woman who knows her body, not just the way it looks, but the way it feels, the way it speaks, the way it guides. A woman who can sit with herself in stillness and hear the wisdom of her own breath. A woman who does not flinch when her emotions rise, but rather welcomes them as messengers of truth. A woman who allows herself to desire, to receive, to rest, to express without apology. That is what the world needs now. No more performers, not more noise, not more women trying to be everything for everyone, but women who are deeply themselves, women who are rooted in their bodies, their values, their vision, women who understand that their sensuality is not a weakness. It's a doorway to their deepest strength. Women who use that strength not to overpower, but to uplift, to inspire, to create. This kind of power cannot be bought. It cannot be copied. It cannot be handed to you. It must be embodied. An embodiment is a choice, a daily devotion, a way of living. It's in the small things, the way you start your morning, the way you breathe through stress, the way you listen to your needs. It's in the way you hold space for yourself first, so you never rely on others to validate your existence. It's in the way you dance through discomfort instead of avoiding it. It's in the way you choose softness without losing your strength. That's the essence of embodied sensuality. That's the reflection of real power. Let me know if you'd like to turn all 3 keynote expansions into a full audio/visual project next.